Well, welcome to Signature Style Saturday. If you're new to this channel, Saturday is a day that we try to talk about certain things that we consider to be signature touches so that we can kind of cement our own personal signature style. So today we're going to do a couple of things in that regard that I think are very much indicative of that. Number one of them is going to be kind of a category called befores and afters, because all of us love a before and after on this channel. And we are going to transform a couple of things through some really intricate pruning, and it will be a great before and after, but it's also a great example of something else that we do on this channel, and that is elevating the ordinary or romancing the ordinary and taking something that's kind of common, but just treating it in a different way that makes it special. So those are a couple of the things that we're going to be doing today. We're going to work on some trees. I'm going to show you finally what that corner ended up looking like out there in the backyard. I fussed over it. I messed with it. Well, there's just a lot to talk about today. So what do you say?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, here's something that I consider a signature touch of mine. It very well could be a signature touch of yours as well. And what I mean by that is just something that I really like that I tend to do on repeat. And one of those things is I like to put unusual things into small pots. Sometimes things that aren't even that unusual, but that do romance the ordinary. So you may recall that in these tiny little pots from Carolina Elizabeth, I potted up some tiny little boxwood basil, and those are growing. Now, true confession, I put a tiny little start of it in there in the center. They slowly started to rot from all the rain, and then the roly-poly moved in. So what I did simultaneously when I put that tiny little seedling in there was I seeded some extra boxwood basil in there, and that is now germinating and thriving as it dries out a little bit. I also showed in one of my previous posts about how I loved putting this succulent in here in these pots, and look at this one, Stuart, has already completely consumed the top of this pot. This one in short order will do the same thing, and I love the way this looks. Now, I love the way it looks because I think it's kind of unique, but I also love it because this is a great arrangement then that I could put on my dining table outside, that I could use as a small centerpiece on a small table outside, whether or not these blooms are open or closed, because they do open and close as the day progresses. Okay, but I digress. Here is the small thing that I want to pot up now, and I want to show you a couple of things. So in this raised bed, you may recall long ago that we filled this up with debris at the bottom, and then we put potting soil on top of that to save money. I have referred in the past to putting, this was a potted up boxwood that was just dead. I considered it garden debris, and I threw it at the bottom. With all of this rain, despite the fact that this was just basically what I thought was a dead boxwood, it has started putting out new growth. Look.
Oh, wow.
So you could see, I just thought it was dead. I just threw it in there. It wasn't diseased. I threw it in there as just garden debris. And through the miracle of nature, look, it's putting on new growth right there. It has actually started to grow. So you never know, but if you're attentive, you might see things. Now, something else that I did was I temporarily put in here some creeping lemon thyme. I put it in this planter box thinking I will eventually repot that. I didn't have time to do it, and it was struggling in the little tiny 4-inch plastic pot that it came in. I haven't done it because of all the rain, so I'm going to do it today. The other thing is, even though it might seem happy in here, it will eventually crowd out things in here that I don't want it to crowd out, because I have some more basil growing in tandem with these peppers, which I am happy to report also have blooms and tiny little peppers on them. And look at all those seedlings of basil in there. That was some seed that I didn't know if it was viable or not, and a lot of it was. So I'll have to do some fork digging and get some of that out. Okay, so I've got some here, and I'm going to take this over here to my very elaborate potting station when I do things for you, sometimes I'll set up a potting table and everything, and for large planting projects, I will do that. But today, this is just a little quickie. This is less than 5-minute gardening. So here are my containers that have dirt in them in the stand that I inherited from Stuart. And I've got 2 pots here that are starting to age beautifully. They're starting to get kind of that mossy look that I like. So now I want to take this. It's not real stable on there. I want to take this and I want to create a pot of Tim. By the way, the base of this is just the other container potting soil that is empty now, and I need to refill it. So I have an idea in mind, and I want these to fill out as quickly as possible. So I've just got regular good potting soil in here. And I'm going to take this clump, and I'm just going to position it in this container right here. Already it almost fills the pot. And like the little bunny out front where I call this a pot of Tim, a pot of time. And I think it's a fun thing to give someone. Sometimes I'll give it to new mothers. I'll say, oh, time is your most precious commodity right now. So here's a pot of Tim, a pot of time for you.
The wordplay with this plant.
Yep, yes. Okay, so there is one chunk. And I'll come back in there and I will give it a little once over. I'm not even going to put gravel on this or anything, because in very short order this is going to consume the top of the plant. So let's go get the other one. And this is something that you can do with almost anything that's coming up in your garden, whether it's a little volunteer, whether it's you're having, let's say, a luncheon and you want tiny little pots filled with nothing but, say, maybe some of those sun pations at each place setting. I love to do that. I'll add a little bit more soil in here. And boy, is this stuff going to take off pretty quickly, because it is happy in here. In fact, it's probably a little bit too happy. I intended to do this far earlier than I did, but I'm not going to let perfection be the enemy of the good, and I do it just as soon as I can get around to it. And then what I will do, see how beautiful this mass is right here? You can see where I have already clipped this, but I haven't clipped that section in the back. This is what you do. Clipping, it's a form of pruning. Clipping forces new growth, typically. Maybe not when it's 110 degrees, but it does right now. So I'm going to clip these pots like that, and eventually it will look not unlike the bunny up front that I put it in. And I will have 2 little pot of Tims to gift or to keep for myself. Maybe this is just a little Mother's Day gift to myself. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to take out some of this soil. This is all brand new potting soil in here. And if this were a flower or something, I might have put some Osmocote or some kind of plant food in there. Long-term plant food, but herbs, you know, they like it a little bit leaner. And this regular soil will work just fine. So now all I have to do is find my scissors, give these a little clip, and then just wait for the magic to happen, for them to consume the pot, and I will have 2 tiny little mounds of lemon thyme, 2 pot of Tims. By the way, if you guys want to check on our beans, Clara and I planted some more at her house. I planted some here, and they're not showing any sign of germination, but you know, that's what I live for. It's what I come out with my coffee in the morning for, is to see when a seed germinates. One of the best things about gardening, whether it lives or not, just watching it germinate gives me a little cortisol boost. Now you'll notice that I'm not saving any of these clippings, but this is an ingredient I like to use just in my basic vinaigrette. This along with chives and garlic. And I'm not saving any of this right now because I know I've got all of that to prune back there, and I'll save it for my salad dressing when I have a little container to put this in. But see how I'm being pretty aggressive about it, because this is, like I say, in short order, this is going to start putting out new growth. Now, not only do I like to trim it on top, but I also like to trim it around the edges. And that's what gives it that look of almost a mossy feel, where it's just growing in these perfect little tufts, which is something that I just adore, like the boxwood basil, like my clipped boxwood, like whatever. I just love things that grow in tufts. So there you go. A little romancing the ordinary, and another garden makeover. Some potatam. Okay, now I've often said, especially recently, that there's a moment of opportunity as part of my garden manifesto, that there are specific moments of opportunity in the garden. One is right before a rain and one is right after a rain. Okay, right after the rain, in addition to opportunities, there are also sometimes pests that can move in because of all of the rain and the poor drainage. Now for me, despite little Clara's love for roly-polies, I really get an infestation of roly-polies that goes far beyond their original job, which is to just cut, to consume and break down decaying debris. Because pretty soon, if you've gotten enough moisture, it will start attacking new, looky there. Oh my gosh.
There's a couple there.
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes.
Yep, this is what I mean. And it's underneath here, so I'm reducing the dead foliage to not bring any more of them in. Now, in the past, I would have used some 7 insect killer. And when I say in the past, years ago, this is what I found in the garage when I was looking for my Captain Jack's insect dust, which is an organic version that does something similar to 7. It works just as well. I don't have any right now, but we're going to put a product link for you right here. I need to get some more of it, and when Hubs goes to Lowe's for me today, or to wherever we buy it, he can get me not only some more gravel, but he can get me some Captain Jack's dust. Okay, and because we are pointing out and highlighting this beautiful fuzzy-leaved gray plant, this is Salvia argentea. It's getting ready to bloom. I've not grown this before, so I am really excited to see what these blooms look like. If you come over to this one over here, which is a little bit larger, it started to decay a little bit at the top from all of the rain, so I had to cut that off. But look, it forced too. Another example of pruning forcing bloom and growth. Okay, in addition to potting up a papa bear, a mama bear, and a baby bear, I also like to do things in threes that are all of the same size, whether that's 3 boxwood in the same size pot running up and down stairs, or across a patio, or by your pool, or whatever. In some cases, I like to do something a little bit more unique. So in this one, I have some Alabama Sunrise Heucherella that is blooming beautifully right now. I've got some, I can't remember the specific variety, but this is one of the ever-blooming carex from Southern Living Plants. I love this chartreuse color, and I love the textural contrast with that Heucherella. And then this is just a coleus that I got at Bricks, and I love it because it's also got a textural contrast, but it also, the purple in this leaf picks up the purple in this one. And then in a continuum up and down my plant stand, they catch the light ever so beautifully, I think, all composed in exactly the same way. These are just some plastic pots that many years ago, Stuart, do you remember doing a video on this? When we aged these pots, I love the way they look. They look like faux concrete now, and I love the way they look on this plant stand in a trio. And because I know you guys will probably ask me, what is this beautiful ivy-looking plant? This is a combination of a hedra and a fascia, and it is Angiostar fasciedra. So this is a southern living plant, and I could have gotten that combo wrong, but this is a southern living plant that I will not be wrong in saying that it's absolutely beautiful. So I've got this in growing mostly shade, but it does get some sun in the morning and it loves it here. I'm just kind of letting it do its thing where it kind of cascades over and joins the party of this trio of plants in yet another textural interest, but in a similar color palette. I love the synergy between all of these plants. And I also like the fact that it gives kind of a vertical element here in the corner. Now this, even though I've seen it come back, it typically is not considered to be hardy. So this is one that I do put in the greenhouse in the winter. Okay, you guys have been asking me a lot, and I'm sorry, I'm just now responding to what kind of fertilizers I like to use. Well, I am not someone who is an absolute purist about gardening organically, but I would say I'm a good 80–85%. Now, in my containers, as I've told you before, I will use a water-soluble Miracle Grow in my pots because they're in my pots and I'm not worried about the soil so much. In the ground, I will use a couple of different things. Actually, I use many different things. I will use any kind of organic liquid bloom or liquid just grow from Espoma. I will use it in granular form. I'll use it in liquid form, as long as it's organic. Recently, I could not find any organic granular for promoting bloom, so I talked about that before, and this is what I've been using, this EB Stone Organics, because this was available and it got good reviews. So, you know, I'm not an absolutist or an extremist about anything. If I can't find exactly what I want in one brand, I will use whatever I can find that is similar to that, paying attention, of course, if one seems to be far superior to the other. But typically I've not found that to be the case. What probably works best of all is a good old compost tea that you make from your own compost. But my compost ain't cooking that fast, so I do what I can do. So that's the answer to that question. How do I fertilize? I showed you about the boxwood, and then this is what I'm doing to promote growth and blooms. Okay, this is a very, very old boxwood. It is a wintergreen boxwood, one of the most common varieties out there. And this I transplanted from my other house. First, it was growing in the garden itself. It got too big and it was starting to open up, so I put it into a pot. And then we started to transform it into a topiary form. Now I'm going to transform it again because after this winter, it really took a beating. So there's a couple of things I'm going to do. Number one, I am going to get it a little bit healthier. Now it likes all of this rain, but it still has lots of leftover bronzing from this past winter when we had that fall off the charts cold weather. So I'm going to address that with a really good feeding. And also I'm going to spray it with some Top Buxus Restore and Protect, but I'm going to do that after I do a little bit of pruning on it. So, I mean, it looks okay now. Eventually, most of this foliage that's discolored would just fall off, but what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to expose not only these large branches from the bottom, but now I kind of want to start exposing some of the thicker, more beautiful and architectural branches from the top. This is the perfect example of romancing the ordinary. So I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of what I am doing, and then we'll speed it up. We'll go into overdrive, and then we'll show you what it looks like when we're finished. Okay, so I'm going to start with this branch right here. This is a pretty thick branch. It's coming off one of the major canes, and what I want to do is I want to clean it up. Now you can do this not only with boxwood, you could do this with really any shrub. So you see it's got some dead wood in here, and I want to remove that dead wood.
That's the easy decision. Right?
That's the easy decision right there. I'll be right back, Stuart, because I know you guys will fuss at me and you'll say, Linda, where's your basket?
There it is.
I'm always just ready to get started, and sometimes I am not I don't exercise a lot of common sense. Okay, you can see more of it in here. So, not only is it this little branch, it can kind of be this big branch because the foliage that remains on it, the foliage, however you pronounce it, is also kind of ugly. So I'm going to take it off. I am then noticing that it's this entire branch here. I could have done that in one fell swoop, but sometimes you have to make a cut to tell you what to do next. While I'm down here, I see I need to take this off and this off and these off.
I love how it starts to shade.
Yeah, it is so, if you guys are in a bad mood, this is really a mental health boost to come out and do something like this. Sometimes when I'm restless and I don't know what to do with myself, or I think I'm going to go into the kitchen and just start eating whatever comes in my way, in my path, then this is the kind of thing that I can do because I find it pleasurable and very gratifying. Okay, so then see here what that did to that one. I'm going to take it off. Okay, so let's stop for a moment. Let's look and see how this is coming along. And already this looks a lot less dead and a lot more a lot less woody and a lot less messy. Now, remember that even after I'm done, if it looks a little bit bare, that's okay because I'm going to give it a feed, and before long, it's going to come out and be even happier for this pruning. Okay, so see here, by opening it up, I see there's more here. Now I also have, these are just some really good sharp pruners. You guys may recall that I had the pruning or the sharpening truck come out earlier in the season, and I had that gentleman sharpen all of my tools, all of my pruners, my shovels, all of my gardening equipment. And by the way, if you think this is kind of tedious work, and if you don't enjoy it the way I enjoy it, then just do it the way I'm doing it. Just take one branch at a time and then come back out later and finish it up. See just all of these dead twigs in here? I'm just clipping those off. Some of them you don't even need to clip off. They will just fall off, or you can slough them off. Now, ones like this that aren't dead, I'm going to cut them back to this node right here, because what's that going to do? That's going to force new growth there. And just so you'll know, and I will know, sometimes it's hard to tell at the beginning of the season if a boxwood, it still kind of looks alive, but it's not putting out any new growth. And you have to do what I'm so bad at, and that's be patient. So I was really starting to worry about this guy right here, but then I was just patient, and look, you can see there's all sorts of new growth coming out. And when you start seeing new growth coming out, that's when you know that's a great time to prune, because if it's already starting to come out on its own, then it will really come out after you do some pruning, because pruning in most cases will generate more growth. Okay, so if pruning things up is one of my favorite things to do using my Works blower, by the way, this is not a sponsored post, but I have used this for years, and many of you have gotten it, and I bring it up today partly because I think there's a special deal on them this weekend for Mother's Day. So we'll put a link here, but I would also highly recommend it for Father's Day, but I think there's a special deal on these right now. So normally, if I had any kind of diseased foliage or anything like that, I would not have just blown it into the background, but this foliage is not diseased. It was just winter burned, and it's pretty hard to clean up anyway. So I just kind of blew it in place. Now, what will I feed this with? Well, here's what I will feed it with, but am I going to feed it right now? No, and I'll tell you why. So this stuff is magic. This is Boxwood Turbo Grow by Top Buxus. This stuff is absolutely wonderful. I use it on all of my boxwood. This was the stuff that was developed in Europe to help with boxwood blight. They also have another product called, excuse me, Stuart, I'm not very organized here. They also have something else called Top Buxus Restore and Protect.
I don't think I've ever seen this.
If you already are having any kind of problem with your boxwood after you prune it, this is a good spray-on application. You just put it in one of those manual sprayers. So I will probably do this as well after I feed it. Now, why am I not going to feed it right now? That is because we have had so much rain. And typically after I feed something, you know, I'll rough it in like this. And then I will immediately water it in. But this has already had too much rain, so I'm going to wait for this to dry out a little bit more. And once it dries out, then I will feed it. And then I will water it in. But look at how moist that is.
Well, yeah, the difference would be it would be way more powdery if it were dry. I mean, that's maybe obvious.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Maybe not to others.
Yeah. This is just really, even the top of the pot. Sometimes the top of the pot will dry out, but the interior, deeper down, it will not be dry. This is very much a new gardener kind of thing. But look, this on the surface is also very moist. Now, if you're wondering what these are some foxglove seedlings of some foxglove that I just put in there. They will remain in this pot and continue to grow until I plant them out this fall. So, Stuart, let's get a really good after shot of this. And you may have the best candidates for this kind of procedure are anything you've got that is just overgrown, that's lost its shape, that is kind of ugly, and you are going to transform it by judicious pruning into something that I think of as a topiary form, but is a topiary that is just, well, it's just kissing bonsai. So it's kind of a combo between the two, bonsai and topiary. This will fill out, it will come out with a whole flush of green probably within a week, and it looks a lot better than it did before. Okay, now as Stuart just said, another motivation in doing that is not only is for its appearance, but also for its general health and well-being, because by pruning out a lot of the interior stuff, it allows more light into the canopy of the plant itself. So just imagine, if you will, that maybe 6 years ago, that was this. And it was really starting to open up. it was very much, it just wasn't happy. And so I decided to transform it. And when that is beautiful and forces out new growth, it's really beautiful, but a completely different effect, elevating the ordinary. And again, nothing is more ordinary and more beautiful than a boxwood. Okay, now speaking of pruning, we prune for aesthetics and we prune for practicality, and this is something that I've done for years. These are those beautiful eastern redbuds. These are native to Oklahoma. These, I have 3 of them. These are only 2 years old. Well, maybe 3, almost 3 years old now. And look at how much they have grown and how much new foliage they have put on. And these make wonderful shade trees, and their canopy is beautiful. And I like to do something which many people really don't like, and that, or they think it's unhealthy for the plant, and that is lion tailing, where I really clear out the inner portions of it. Now I sometimes, and that's a good thing, I sometimes carry that a little bit too far, and my lion tails are pretty extreme, albeit breathtakingly beautiful. But right now, I want to improve the appearance of this because I don't want it to look like a great big shrub. But we're going to do a before and after on this. So Stuart, let's get a really good before of this. And then the reason I'm pruning it today is more practical, because this is on Lemon Lane. This is my passage, one of my passages to the backyard and my utilitarian area over here. But look here. It is definitely messing with my game. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Works Nitro pruners, because these branches are a lot thicker. This is a higher degree of pruning in terms of the thickness of the branches themselves, and I want something that won't be nearly as much of a hardship on my hand and the arthritis that I'm starting to get in my thumb joint. So I'm going to start out here with the practicality of just removing some of the lower limbs. Now, Stuart, if you can come over here from my vantage point, in deciding what to prune.
That was probably a bad video, sorry guys.
And I can be a little bit more aggressive because we've had so much rain and this is putting out so much growth. Now, I could just prune this one off like that, and I'm being very careful using my pruners. Then I could just prune this one off.
Don't mind the helicopter.
Yeah, I don't mind the helicopter. But in looking at this, what I want to do over time is raise the canopy slowly. And I want to do that without creating as few blemishes as possible. So instead of doing that just kind of piecemeal, I'm going to do it a little bit more aggressively. And see this branch right here?
You have top of it? Oh yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sacrifice this lower section of the branch.
It was just funny, I came down and
okay, yeah, I'm going to sacrifice this lower section of the branch. By the way, it's growing downwards, which is always a tip, so that these 2 arching branches over it can be the ones that take hold and eventually arch over Lemon Lane as I want it to do. So on this one, I am going to take off this entire lower branch. Let me see here. Let me look at it from this side. Once you clip it, you can't undo it, but by the same token, and you know what? Ultimately, this whole branch is probably going to come off right here. But right now, I'm going to be not so aggressive about it, and I'm going to take it off right here. Now see, that seems like a really large branch, but when you look at the totality of the tree itself, it's really a very, very small percentage of it.
And I think they could see that from my angle where I am, because the bottom of the tree stayed basically level when you pulled it off.
Yeah, and
it didn't leave a gap or anything.
Right, and it is slowly raising the canopy, so I'm going to do that too. So now I can kind of walk under this. This one here, I'm going to leave because I want it to keep growing. Now sometimes you guys will see me do this. Stripping the branches of these seed heads. And I do that because, number one, I have so many of these. And once they turn brown, they're not as comely as they are and as attractive as they are when they are in this green shade. You can see on that redbud over there how they're starting to turn brown. So sometimes I will remove some of them. And am I in any way inhibiting its putting out new babies? No, I will have new babies everywhere. Okay, right here, I'm going to take this one off, because not only do I want to walk under it, but the things growing underneath it also want some light. So I've got white wedding abelia, and I've got lemon lime abelia, and I've got white wedding hydrangeas. And believe it or not, they want some shade, but they don't want too much shade, or they really won't bloom as heavily as I want them to bloom. So I'm going to quit talking now. I'm going to continue with this same strategy, and I'm going to work on this and limit up so that you guys can see another before and after. So Stuart was asking me, am I going to prune on this one at all? And no, I'm not, because look, it's tall enough and it's doing that beautiful arching thing that I want it to do over Lemon Lane and eventually to this side of the house. It will also, I also want to prune it a little bit to allow as much light as possible to go into my parlor window. So I'm not going to prune that. I'm going to leave this one here. And this is what I mean about that beautiful arching effect. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to clean this up some. That was to get more light down through here and to kind of decrease the density so you can see through this a little bit better. And expose not only the plants growing underneath it to more light, but more beautifully expose the architecture of the branches. Okay, now I'm going to be quiet and continue with my pruning. I don't know where that one went. Does that look better, Stuart?
Yeah, you can see it. Of course, yeah, it's on the bottom, but yeah, and I want to come get a shot.
Okay, so notice that I started at the bottom, and it's really reduced the density in here, and it's also reduced the number of branches that are hanging down. I'm not going to go too much higher right now because number one, I'm not going to get on a ladder, but number two, and more importantly,
Is that a nest?
there's a nest right there.
A well-made nest, too.
A well-made nest. And so I just now noticed, I wouldn't have even noticed it had I not kind of exposed the branches, but I think it will still be safe and secure in there. So I am going to stop. I'm going to clean up my mess. I hope you guys enjoyed that before and after, and I'll meet you in the backyard. And here is today's outfit du jour. My sunnies are Ray-Bans. I got these, I can't remember where I got them, probably at the mall or someplace. No, I think I got these on Poshmark. So those are my sunnies. My earrings are those blue ones that I showed you the other day. We will try to put the link up here. She contacted me and thanked me for highlighting her product because she said she got several orders. I really love them. They are designed clay. They're beautiful, I think. My top is Banana Republic. My necklace, I can't remember. I need to turn it around. I got this online somewhere. My belt, I got at Nordstrom Rack quite a while ago. My breeches, I got thrifted. I think they are just traditional Levi's. And my hunter boots, I got on eBay. So there you go. There's my outfit du jour. Okay, if you haven't yet gotten in on the question of the day from our last video, that was, what do I want to put in this third container? I've got 3 gray baskets here, and I want to complete it in white. So speaking of signature touches, a signature touch of mine is to do things in 3, typically all in one color: Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear. Sometimes there's multiple baby bears, and my question was, and I haven't been to the garden center yet to select anything, so I am still open for suggestions. Do I want to do the white impatiens, sun patiens? Do I want to do million bells, calibrachoa, or do I want to do angelonia? So that's my question. I am leaning right now towards a combo, which I normally don't do, but a combo of angelonia and sun patiens in this pot, partly because I want the textural difference that I think the angelonia will bring. But if you guys have a strong opinion about it, or if you want to introduce a whole new annual that is pure white as part of the action, then by all means do that. Sometimes for me, the decision and the answer is based on what is available and looking good at my nursery. Well, you can tell by my beloved squeak that we are going into the backyard, and I want to show you this corner and the after of this corner as promised. Now, you might want to go back and visit the video that we did the other day, but what I did was move this kind of struggling arborvitae from there to over here by taking out some of these stepping stones, some of these pavers, and some of these bricks. This was my stupidity that I didn't recognize that as an option until later.
So you put this back on the stand?
So I did. You know, I took it off to take a look at it, then I put it back on, because really I don't know if I want something on or off until the entire composition is placed, is doing what I want it to do, if that makes sense. And so while I originally thought, well, I had those 2 strong backs there, that I wanted this down, after I pruned this, I pruned the overgrown Blue Point juniper, which, by the way, was, you're going to watch a video on, if you watch the video on Friday, you will see the tiny little juniper that I shopped my garden or thrifted my garden with at the old house. This is one of those. And this is how much it has grown. It is one of those.
Smokes.
So we will put a before and after.
And if y'all didn't
there.
know, tomorrow's video shows you, tomorrow as in Friday, the May.
Today, we're shooting this on Friday, so you're going to see a video tonight. You will see this video tomorrow on Saturday. So, so I pruned that into a ball shape, more reminiscent of one that I had at the other house. And then I also have started pruning more tightly some of the boxwood balls here, because that's what makes it simulate the look I had at the other house that I loved so much when you came through the gate. And you can see that this beautiful red verbena from Southern Living is finally happy because it's finally getting a little bit of sun. I need to do some deadheading here. But I didn't know exactly where I wanted to place this elephant bush on its stand, or this, and by the way, you guys, romancing the ordinary, this is just the top of a bird bath. And when I went to the store, all I did was buy the top. I didn't buy the base. Now, the reason it has drainage is because this is the top of a pedestal bird bath, and there's a big hole in the bottom of it where the pedestal would support it. And so this makes a great planter. It's a fraction of what it would cost you if you bought a saucer planter, a concrete saucer planter of this size at a nursery. So another example of a before and after in romancing the ordinary. That also gave room for this Miss Figgy right now to grow and cascade. And do I wish already that my meter was covered up? Yes. But now that I know that I finally, after much deliberation over the past 2 years, have the pieces in place where I want them to be, now I am content to be patient and wait for these to grow in place. Okay, here's another garden makeover, another pruning job that I did. You guys did it along with me, and it was this Japanese maple in the back. Some of you, I think, thought it was just atrocious that I took off so much of the foliage, but look at how much foliage is coming back. And I was able to really elevate the canopy, and I have a good, just since we did that, I bet I have a good 3 to 4 inches of new growth on the ends of this branch. And so what that does, pruning does force bloom, and it also forces growth. And I think that this Japanese maple now is so much more beautiful in shape, in form, and in spirit to create the atmosphere that I wanted to create here after I did that makeover. Okay, another reason I love small gardens is because it gives me the luxury of taking the time to indulge in making each one of my small garden areas, my still lifes, my vignettes, if you will, look just the way I want them to look. I'm not so busy doing a lot of other things around a massive garden so that I don't have time to dedicate to I guess just actualizing what I see in my head. And so that is another reason I just love small gardens, and why I increasingly love this spot right here at the cottage on the hill, is because I can do just that. I can indulge in obsessing over small garden spaces.